Thank you for visiting www.scottnelsonson. As part of my how-to series I have here on my website, I'd like to show additional items that I draw. Today's assignment is going to be my favorite thing to draw, which is greeting cards. Specifically today, Halloween. So what I normally do is I take a random piece of paper or my sketchbook and I just start jotting down ideas. You think Halloween, you think pumpkins and cobwebs and spiders, things of that nature. But I'm going to try a Dracula character today. So I took a piece of paper here, I did various ideas, and I kind of settled on the thought process of maybe I'm going to have my Dracula character here eating an ear of corn and having some of the kernel stuck in his teeth. So once I was satisfied with this sloppy sketch here, I then resized it a little bit. Again, I'm still keeping it very sloppy because I'm not really worried about the details as of yet. And I'm just thinking here, well, I'll put my moon and maybe I'll have a haunted castle down here at the bottom. And maybe even be funny to have it a haunted dentist office. So I think I'm ready to go to final art. So follow along as I start to paint it. Okay, I've taken that previous Dracula sketch and I've transferred it onto a piece of watercolor paper right here. I've also attached it to a thicker piece of illustration board, so the entire stock now is nice and thick. I've added some registration marks here, so in case in the event I decide to do an overlay, I'll have something to put the overlays on and register accordingly. In light pencil here, I've drawn out Dracula. I've only made some minor adjustments. I've gone a little smaller, and I've also started to add in the details of the corn kernels. And I also, again, the camera's probably not picking it up, but I've adjusted Dracula's castle here at the bottom. So again, now this time the paint-in starts, and this is when it really gets fun for me. Okay, I'm painting the background first, only because I want to be able to overpaint the actual image of Dracula. If I did that second, I'd have to be painting around things, and it just would be too much of a nightmare. So right now I'm just going to be really quick with my background sky. I'm painting wet into wet, so I don't really let just mistakes happen. And the intent here is to make a spooky night sky, but not have it be a distraction to actually what's going on with Dracula himself. Now as I paint different elements on this artwork, I'll take care to consider the light source, which will be the moon right here, casting a shadow in the direction down. It's the bottom of the vampire's hands, underneath the corn. I'll have a drop shadow. Alright, it's about time to do the flesh tone of Dracula, and when typically I think flesh tones, I'm thinking, skin tone of some sort, but because it's a creepier character, I think I mixed up some of a kind of a light green, blue, yellow color, a bit more of a muted palette, and at first I threw down some clear water to help this spread around a little bit as I do his skin tone here. One thing you have to remember about watercolors is they typically dry lighter than you first apply them down. So even though right now I can see them, I know they're going to dry lighter. So I'm already anticipating, well, what areas I'm going to go darker. Again, I'm keeping in mind that I have some shadow work that it's eventually going to play in underneath his nose, jaw, his fingers, all that good stuff. So I love watercolors. Got to be willing to let accidents happen and just play with them. I'm using just a regular watercolor paper. You can already see that it's buckling a little bit. The more expensive paper you get, it will cost you a little bit more money. What I used here was more of a pad paper. It's a rough cut or rough press. Hot press. And the reason I use that is because a cold press will things sit up on top of it and float more, whereas I typically like it to absorb into the paper. So I also occasionally use illustration board and other styles of paper when I'm doing greeting card work. But alright, so there's kind of the base of my Dracula skin tone. A little Frankenstein-like, but we'll work on it. I'm now going to do a suit, and what I've done is I've mixed some acrylic paint with some liquid watercolor, and the reason I'm doing that is I think making it opaque will allow the Dracula or vampire character now to pop off the page a little bit better than just a translucent watercolor, because I really want him to be the main focus. If you notice, I have some purples in there. Those are the highlights that should be facing the light source. I just thought purple would make a more of a Halloween-y color, and if you make it nice and colorful. As I get closer to the finish and details of my greeting card here, what I might normally do is take an overlay, a clear overlay, lay it on top. I use the previous crop marks I placed on the watercolor paper. I start doing some inking right on top of this, allow me to do the publisher and the printer to change up the colors if need be. Often I also do, if the characters are actually talking as a word bubble, the inking will be done right on that as well. Sometimes I'll take a different style of overlay, a frosted one in this case, and it allows me to use different styles of inks. But I think I'm going to pass on that this particular time because the greeting card doesn't have any words on the front, and I think I'm going to just take my microns here and possibly some my watercolor pencils and just finish up some of the minor details and leave it at that. Oh, there it is. Finished product. I hope you enjoyed seeing how I create greeting cards here at Scott Nelson & Son Studios. And I hope you come back to www.scottnelsonandson often and watch my how-to videos. Thank you.